But with that, we'll move on to the next fixture, which is coming up on Saturday, the 14th of November. We have Italy-Scotland, 12:45 kickoff, which is quite early for a test match.
Yeah, 1:45 local.
Yeah, obviously a little later, a little more reasonable, at the a new stadium in Florence, no less. Stadio Artemio Franchi, or Franchi, I'd say probably.
Franchi maybe, yeah.
Franchi maybe.
I don't know.
But yeah, class to see a new stadium, new locale.
Fiorentina's ground in Serie A and soccer.
There you go.
So there you
Moving go. Incrementally southwards throughout Italy. It's not south, but it's
not
more southern than
exactly.
than Benetton and the
from the leg and boot, we've got all the way to sort of the upper thigh.
Yeah, just about where the zip starts when you're zipping down the boot.
Yeah, no, it's it's still the north of Italy, and which is rugby heartland out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, 100% excited to see them take it to a new venue. It's just a shame there's no fans there to see it.
That is disappointing.
It's much of a muchness where you play really these days.
True.
What I will say is that the weather is to be perfect. 18 degrees Celsius, no winds to speak of, and clear sunny skies.
Oh, lovely stuff. Luke Pearce reffing, obviously. We'll do the same thing as we had before. Just look ahead at the tournament and what they're hoping to get out of, like what each side is looking to get out of it. Starting with Italy, the hosts, the Azzurri, like once again, just a little bit outgunned and outmatched in everything they were doing in the Six Nations. They are just comprehensively the tier 2 side at the tier 1 table, and they're certainly, the last time these two met was in Italy, and it was one of Scotland's most impressive performances. They were comprehensive, they were better.
It was a 17-0 win for Scotland.
Yeah,
it was fine without being spectacular.
I thought it
was without Finn Russell, so it was their forwards doing
That was
the
what
job.
I was thinking. It was like just in the context of the World, because it was coming shortly after their World Cup catastrophe, and to see them so comprehensively more physical and more dominant in all the set pieces, and just really Italy were impotent in that game, and that traditionally is the game that they would be targeting in this in the Six Nations. Is the game against home game against Scotland, so they have another chance at it this time, which is not normally they wouldn't be getting a do-over in the same year, but they do have the chance to try and make amends for that being nilled at home by Scotland. Never a fun thing.
Yeah, and so as far as generally what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get out of it, I mean, bringing a physicality that can match their opposition is huge. They have obviously class back rowers who are feisty and can make a dog's dinner of your ball at times. Which is definitely a positive. They're trying to move the ball at times. They're not clinical enough.
I'm excited by the shape they've employed. They have extra depth. They are trying to access the wide channels. It's unfortunate that sometimes it's just the passings letting them down, and very often it'll be one of those back rowers who's the link man, he's the second last man, and he gets it when it's already scrappy. It's a scrappy ball when it reaches Garbisi, the out half, then he fires a slack enough pass that checks the run of the guy outside, and then he throws the last pass, and it's either Pelledri or Negri or someone who's meant to catch and give to the winger who's in space, but instead of catching and gives, he catching and taking contact because they're a little off.
Yeah, and there's definitely improvements even on top of the shoots of growth that you might have been seeing in Conor O'Shea. Or, I mean, the critique that would have been given is they finally developed a run game but had no kicking game to speak of. You know, they had Tommy Allen, who's a 12 in disguise, playing a 10, and now actually they're 12 as a 10 in disguise, and they have a natural 10. So between Kana and Garbisi, they actually have guys who can kick the ball and play options. A bit of territory.
You don't need to, like what you're talking about with Ireland, it doesn't need to be a box kick in the air that you're going to kick too far and it's going to be fielded and run back at you and kick return. You can try and mix up your kicking game, try and play the territory game a bit more savvily.
And they've worked some lovely passes and some lovely shapes and got some decent line breaks, and likewise they can be combative enough at the breakdown time. They tend to struggle at scrum time. This is a big task for them this week against Scotland.
Well, their front row is definitely outgunned a lot in the Six Nations and will be again. But to be fair to their second rowers, they are physical and hardy enough as well, and you can see in Benetton as well, even though they don't tend to win many games, they make it scrappy out there. They're actually not a soft team at all. They're quite a gritty, hard team. It's just sometimes an inaccurate one and sometimes an ill-disciplined one, and that's born of the pressure that they're perpetually under by being outmatched in these games, but also inflicting on themselves. Like you were saying, the back row are great, like Pelledri, Stain, Negri, all fantastic players. It's just they're rarely contributing proactively to games. They're reacting. They're cleaning up all the mess of their own errors and then making around 10 tackles before they get in space and able to run at a defender. And it's just, it would be nice to see a little bit of like those kinks ironed out so that you can get your good players contributing.
I can see all of that. I can see the attack building to nice places. I can see the forward pack building to decent places as well. And I can see the beginnings of a full performance being in there, with the obvious and consistent caveat of one area, which is defence and not mainly just the tackling.
Straight first up tackling.
How can it be this bad after so many years? I mean, it was the same when Campagnaro first came into the squad. It was his glaring weakness. He couldn't tackle. He's since left the squad. Other guys have come in, and just the quality. Some of the first up tackling that the Italians miss is shocking, and like even under pressure, even having soaked a lot of physical contacts, even facing classy attacking players, just some of the softness is like Jaden Hayward against Ireland in that first game
just
back,
softing
just
out.
Not even putting a shoulder into a contact. I mean, it is their number 1, 2 and 3 work on is just succeeding at making dominant hits and tackles against these teams. They'll never ever be able to compete if they so consistently fail to make dominant tackles, and that's to a man. Like, that's not like the back row. Obviously, when the ball comes their way, they can be physical. Bram Stain doesn't miss many tackles.
No.
But when it gets out wide, when Scottish centres or English centres or any centres are running at their centres, they're missing tackles. And that is something that is unforgivable and needs to be fixed. That is the first thing to fix. We've said it now going into, I think, 2 or 3 tournaments in a row. Like, you would have said last year's Six Nations, we would have said job 1, fix your tackling. Going to the World Cup, job 1, fix your tackling. Going to this year's Six Nations, job 1, fix your tackling. And here we are at the Nations Cup, same thing.
Fix your tackling.
They still haven't fixed their tackling.
Like, I have sympathy for the defence coach, because it's like, in terms
but even
of,
like, that's what you should be working on.
It should be.
No shape work.
Shape
Tackle.
is like, you don't even know if your shape is effective or not, because before you get a chance to figure it out, or it has a chance to impose anything, someone's missed a tackle, it's broken already, and you just like, you can't learn anything about a system until you get the basics of the technique right. And just get the tackles down, bring your men down. It's we're going to hammer that home, because it is the main work on for Italy. But then beyond that, like, if they can build in that area, and if they can divvy that load, if you can trust other people to make the tackles, so that Pellegrini and Negri don't have to spend the game, or Bram Stain soaking tackles by the end, well, making dominant hits in the first half and then soaking yardage in the second, because you're already gassed and you've already worked your socks off trying to mop up these mistakes. If they can get themselves a bit more proactive, I think what they are targeting in the group that they're in is ideally one big win this tournament. Don't know who's against. Could be Scotland this time, but they'll be looking to try and win a game for sure. And then short of that, probably a more realistic goal is just a cohesive performance for at least 70 minutes that has you in a competitive game. Because they haven't done that yet either.
You saw bits of it against England, and that was in a game where England didn't really test their tackling. You saw bits of it. Again, the bits and bobs aren't far away, apart from just that area of tackling. But absolutely, they should be able to manage their way a bit around the field, make things scrappy at the breakdown and at the set piece, attack more crisply and find some tries. And then, if you do all of those pizzas, all those bits and bobs, you're not going to be too far away in the end.
No, for sure. And I will reiterate my point on the 3-pointers, because I still think they're outgunned here. I think no 3-pointers in the first quarter, especially. Certainly if it gets to the last quarter, and if you've managed to succeed in all of these things and scored enough that you're tight, maybe it's 21-24 or something, and you want to level the scoreboard, or you're gassed and you get a penalty that you can kick, do it at that point. But in the first half, that's when your energy's there. That's when you need, before Pellegrini has made 14 tackles, get him on the ball in a meaningful way, dynamically running at these Scottish guys and getting over the line, because realistically, you're not going to, with your tackling being such as it is, you're never going to be like holding teams like Scotland to lower than 20 points. So you have to score 20 at least yourself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, because we've gotten sort of some pushback, and certainly the common narrative is that any side that doesn't take their 3 ever in any context ever is just stupid. And it's because they're all stupid, and that's why they didn't do it. But I mean, like, the difficulty with that, and I do think I agree with your point that it matters more when your side is significantly outgunned, when you're an underdog side. It's just like, when you're presented with the opportunity to take 3 points, it's often stated that it's 3 free points. Our point would be that those points don't come free; they come at a cost. firstly, of all the momentum of the game being sucked out. Like, there's 3 points on the board and we restart. So there's an awful lot of winning of a game that you have to do if you want to win it by taking 3-pointers. You have to win the restart, you have to get back up the pitch, just to make it a positive play. It's so easy to give back a cheap 3 after you've conceded a 3. More difficult to do that after you've scored a try. Secondly, in terms of what else you're giving up one of the few opportunities that you're going to have to set up a line out, 5 out from the opposition line. And if you know you need to make those opportunities count, or if you're like an Exeter or a side that's really confident from that position, like, this is where we're going to get our tries. We're going to get our tries from mauls close to the line and line outs close to the line and setting up set pieces like that. Then that has to be considered that this is one of the few areas where you have a real chance to impose your game on the opposition. You get to spend more time down in the opposition half. You're making them make more tackles. And at the end of the day, 7 points is more than 3. And like, it only needs to work once every 2 times to be a profitable play.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things where you can see why other teams do it. Like, even if you go for it and you don't get it, you're still in the right area of the field.
Yeah, you're still forcing them to exit.
So our perspective on it is, especially if you're the lesser team, being aggressive. Like, scoring a try takes an emotional toll that conceding a 3-pointer doesn't.
Well, like, if you're going into a game against a team that you are the underdogs to, and you're in the first quarter, maybe you catch them a little slow, you've managed to start really well, and you earn yourself a penalty in the 22. Like, kicking 3 over is just like nothing to the favourites. They're going like, sure, look, the final quarter's ours anyway. We're going to run in 3 tries in the final quarter regardless. This 3 points means nothing. And it does.
That's the way it works.
It's exact. Whereas if you go for it, if you start like a house on fire and you catch the better team a little cold in the first quarter, if you can score 12 points or something, or 14 from 2 tries quickly, then you can start kicking your, like, when you get the next penalty, maybe you chip that one over, because you're in the game. Then you've built a lead, and then you can get the scoreboard ticking over. But like, the notion of just getting the scoreboard ticking over with a 3-pointer off the bat at the beginning of the game,
if
that's not a score.
If Italy are dominant against Scotland here for 20 to 25 minutes and they come away from that with a 6-0 lead, chances are it's not going to be enough.
It's not enough.
And then Scotland will come into the game, and all of a sudden that's your purple patch gone. And that's definitely a concern of ours. So that's just a little aside.
It's always my thing with Italy, because I think they're the best example of it. Normally in the Six Nations, and it's like, this is a de facto Six Nations game again. Scotland are in very good form. Got to recognise your chances to score tries and try and take them, even if you botch it.
Also, just to get some tries on the board, you have a good opportunity to take it. Try and take it. But listen, we'll move on.
We'll move on from that aside to Scotland, who are actually in very fine form themselves. It was a bit of a disjointed outing against Wales, but they got the job done, and they'll be very grateful for it, because they hadn't won in Wales in a while. And then the week prior, they looked mighty impressive against Georgia.
They did, yes.
Was it a week before the week? They looked polished. They looked like they had tempo in their attack. They knew what they're about. They know what they're about with the ball in hand. They want to try and inject that tempo that Gregor has often cited. Wants to make them the most dynamic and quick team.
They've become a very solid team all of a sudden, and it's happened this year. Like, really, just the inclusion of Rory Sutherland and just some really informed players like Jamie Ritchie has just taken them to this level of solidity. Obviously, they've got just a embarrassment of riches in the second row in terms of what to choose from. But they've got an awful lot of heft, and they've got a sort of a dynamism up front and a physicality up front that a lot of teams aren't dealing with, and it's sort of removed the panic from their play, where they're not constantly on the back foot. Like, they matched England up front, they matched Ireland up front, they edged Wales up front, they beat France up front. Like, their forward pack are winning them games now, and the whole team just has an air of calm about it that it never had before.
It's true. Like, it used to be very frenetic with the knowledge that we're probably not going to be able to match these guys up front. We're probably going to concede a few scrum penalties. We're going to have to score all the tries that we can to try and keep us in that despite that. Now, when you're talking about Rory Sutherland, he has come back with such a vein of form, and then you have the likes of Keble as well, Nell on the bench. Like, launching a guy like Nell off the bench, that's a luxury that Scotland have never had before.
Sander Fagerson has taken the jersey off him. Like, superb scrummaging and brilliant play in the loose as well, and then all of the guys, like who do they have? Who are they on? Sam Skinner, Exeter man, is coming off the bench and lock for them. Like
there's a lot of heft to be bringing in after 60 minutes. It's very good. Their tight five is very, very good. Their options at lock, they have an embarrassment of riches. And this new back row that they have with Richie, Hamish and Blade Thompson at number 8.
Nice balance.
Very physical, lovely balance to it.
They're useful in the loose. They're all good ball carriers. They're all comfortable enough on the ball. So absolutely, they're a side that's swimming in the deep waters in terms of international forward packs and very much doing even more than treading water at times, dominating teams. And they should be feeling bullish about that, and it has given them a calm. The only concern is really what's been outside that. Obviously this year, Finn Russell was gone and then he was back and now he's gone again. And Adam Hastings is
now gone, so in comes Duncan Weir. A chance for him to re-establish himself in the fold at least, because he's
always
kind
had good clutch.
Yeah, and he's vanished from the picture in Scotland, and it's like he's not gone. He's in England. He's playing professional rugby in the Premiership. He's definitely an option for them. And then himself and Ali Price, a big task to try and just bring that passing game, that tempo, try and attack, get after Italy, especially in week 1, because they do have danger out. They have form guys out in the wide channels that are dangerous, and now with the reintroduction of Johnston of
Sam Johnson is like definitely a difference maker.
You were calling for it. Johnston and Harris, I think, and you think is their best centre partnership.
It's the right balance of attack and defence.
Exactly.
Because they had brought in guys like Lang. Wasn't doing anything really out there, and when they go with the Hugh Jones combination, it's not solid enough on defence. Whereas Scott, certainly Sam Johnson, I think is the finest centre they have in the country, in that he's very, very competent both in attack and defence, comfortable passing the ball. So that's obviously an exciting element for them. The area of concern was like in that Wales game, they won it, but Wales played poorly, and they played pretty poorly. They didn't use the ball that well. And I thought it was funny to see Squidge Rugby's video where he's saying Ali Price should be man of the match, and like my thought was very different. Like I was thinking he was kicking well for sure, and everything was controlled, but it was a bit slow, and they kind of got out of jail. Like they could have lost that game, and they were up, they were on top.
I thought Wales were going to. There was a point at around 70 minutes where it was there for the taking for Wales. They just failed to take it, and it shouldn't have been.
I thought a reason why is that they just weren't moving the ball well enough.
Well, him getting he's the first one I've seen pinged for the use it call.
Yeah,
where he was told use it, and then like 7 seconds later, it's still in the ruck, and he's still looking at the ref. Come on,
that'll do your head in. Your forwards are dying for the ball. They're owning the contacts. Like they need to move the ball a bit crisper, and without Russell or Hastings in there, there's going to be more pressure on Ali Price to speed up a little. And what Scotland don't need is to become an international Edinburgh just because they've got a big pack. Where they're all of a sudden they've gone from being trying to be the fastest team in Europe to being the slowest. They don't need that.
No.
They absolutely need to keep up playing with a fast tempo, taking tries, getting the ball into the hands of Darcy Graham and Stuart Hogg.
Yes, these are the danger guys, and they're the form guys with Van der Merwe in there now as well. Him and Graham with Stewie Hogg looking great as well in the Scotland jersey now. Yeah, like get them in the ball. Get them attacking those Italians who won't tackle them.
They do not exist to chase kicks. They exist to be given the ball in space, the wingers, and Scotland, just because they have a big pack, do not need to go back to that.
No, but
that would be my only concern.
No, they need to blend the thing. What they have now is such a rock solid set piece, a good competent kicking game, and confident backs who can move the pill.
Yeah,
they need to marry all of these things into the top level international team that they are dying to become, and they've been working towards. They have been
so long.
Like it's been like you've been like bigging them up every Six Nations. You go in thinking, geez, Scotland.
Is this their year?
They've been coming for a long time, and it's a big task for the likes of Duncan Weir now as well in the context of this game that he's got a chance to. Like you've seen with England, there is a tactically expedient way to get at Italy by kicking the ball. Yes, their back three is a little ropey. You can find space with attacking kicks.
More expedient just to run at them.
Yeah, you don't need to do it every time. Like if you run at them for a few phases, chances are they'll miss a tackle and you'll be in.
Yeah.
So like, be confident in your ability to pass the ball to find the guys in space, and take the game to the Italians straight away. Set your stall out for the tournament going forward. Attack the team that you know you're better than, and try and put them to the sword, and be ready for a bigger test when Fiji or France come in the weeks to come. Kind of have a bit more tempo and a bit more verve in your attack. But I actually think they're really well placed going into this to make a fist of winning this Autumn Nations.
Even with the two tens missing notwithstanding, they do have a very balanced team. France are having to pick a change team. Fiji are going to be, one would assume, disjointed. Obviously, they're an unknown element and could be a danger to anybody.
Yes.
But the group that they're in, they need to. This is the task starts in Florence, but they'll be targeting. They've got such a good record against England in recent times. They'll be targeting topping this group and having a game against England to maybe win some silverware, and wouldn't that be incredible?
Yes, it would. And I would not begrudge them if they can pull all that off.
And I wouldn't put it past them just yet. Not just yet. Yeah.
But it does start here in terms of getting their things right, getting everything, all their ducks in a row to go and take on those tougher teams. That being said, any predictions for the game? I'm going with a strong Scotland win. I think 15, maybe 20
there's
points.
Definitely a possibility that Italy make it scrappy and Scotland don't look right, and I wouldn't rule that out at all.
No, I wouldn't, especially with the changes. As you say, losing your first 2 10s is going to affect any international team.
I wouldn't rule out a bullish Italy performance out in Rome, but I do think Scotland... out in Florence, of course. But I do have a bit of faith in the competency of this Scotland team versus the competency of the Italy team, and I think scrums, line out drives, carries. I think they have enough that they're going to see at home convincingly enough, and I'm not convinced that Italy have too much to threaten their defence with. So you need something like, you might give Italy 10 to 12 points or something along those lines, but give Scotland somewhere around 30.
20 to 30.
30 to 10. There's a result. There's a nice even numbered result.
Yes, indeed. It's definitely. I'd go somewhere similar, 15 to 20 point margin in the end, and the Scots looking maybe perhaps a little disjointed, but ultimately confident that they are better than Italy, and will probably show that.
I would say so. Thank you very much for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it a like, share with your friends, and leave a comment down below as well. We really do want to hear your thoughts.